All right, I just wanted to go on a little bit of a rant about a subject, and that's going to be about how America, right, is a dictatorship, right? Now I get tired of seeing, dummies out here, they'll sit there on one hand, they're like, in the truth, right, knowledgeable. But yeah, they'll sit there and celebrate the United States. Like I was just watching earlier this one prepper channel on YouTube. It's called The Angry Prepper, right? There's this, big black baby on there that kind of looks like, a black version of Winnie the Pooh. And, dude's on there, talking about it, a lot of shit. Dude's on there saying YouTube censoring him, but yet his live streams get, what, 15, 20,000 people watching him? It's like, dude, nobody's censoring you, right? You got, what, 100,000, 200,000 subscribers on there? Nobody's censoring what you're saying, dummy. YouTube's promoting your content. I mean, shit, it looks like you got ads on your videos, right? But this dummy was on there, talking shit about, Russia, talking shit about China, talking shit about, Japan. But then he'll talk about, well, yeah, the U.S. government lies to us. But then 2 minutes later, he'll be like, well, bless America, right? This is such a great country that I give my respect to. It's like, well, dumbass, weren't you just complaining about the government like 2 minutes ago? But yet now your stupid ass is literally sitting here bowing down, right, bending over backwards, to America. It's like, what is the logic here? It's like some of these people, even among some of the so-called intelligent people, don't even make logical sense with their own conclusions and the bullshit that they say, man. They're like some of these preppers out here on the internet, they're smart enough to understand that, you can't rely on the government for everything, right? They understand that, there could come a time when society collapses and they prepare for it. But of course, on the other hand, they actually sit there and like they defend the whole idea of law and a rulership by law. And they actually like really believe that that's like how the world truly should work, right? In their brains, they are so deceived where they actually think like decrees from the rulers actually dictate the world, right? So they will bend over backwards to obey every demand of government, right? So hell, some of these dudes, if the government came in tomorrow and demanded their guns, like what they did with what was it, Katrina, right? With that hurricane, they came in and grabbed everybody's guns up with that. So these preppers, right? They'll sit here talk tough on the internet, but if the government knocked at their door, they'd hand over their guns just like that without a problem because now it's the law that you have to give us your firearms. So, hey, if the government says it's legal to have firearms, they'll be, drinking their beers and shooting off their weapons on 4th of July. But then the next week, when the government says that we demand your guns, then they'll bend over backwards and hand them their guns. So, like, seriously, these are the dumbass preppers that are on YouTube, right? These dumbass Americans, they'll be like, "Bless America." I can't literally walking around with T-shirts out here. Like I saw this one dumbass at Walmart the other day walking around with a tank top that said, "I can't hear you over the sound of my freedom," which truly it just means, I can't hear you over the sound of my indoctrination. Because that's really what these people are out here. They've all been indoctrinated from the time they were little children to repeat nonsense that they were raised with, such as edicts from government are truly moral, and anybody taught or anybody found breaking any demand of government is immoral and should be punished, right? Like literally, these people out here, they worship government as if it's a god, right? Like people literally out here, when they think about law and order and government and governmental officials, they really think that that's like something beyond human, right? Like the laws of the land are like from something above humans, is what they basically believe. Because, say for instance, right, if anybody sees somebody going out breaking any of the commands of government, they actually feel uncomfortable being around somebody like that or witnessing something like that. Like, it could be anything. It could be somebody driving with a expired sticker on their car, right? Just as one instance, right? They people, if they see that, they'll feel a certain way about that, like that person's doing something wrong. Or another hand, if they see somebody trying to cheat their taxes, so to speak, they'll actually think that that's a morally corrupt person because they're trying to keep their money from getting stolen by them by the mafia gang called the U.S. government. Like, think about how weird this is. We're in a time, a day and age where if you try to not get robbed, you are the bad guy. And the people who are robbing hundreds of millions of people, that's all justified because they call it the rules. But yet, the same dumbass who believe that, well, government has the right to lay and take taxes. But yet, the dumbass who believes that's okay, they'll be the first person to talk shit if the gangs that are running Haiti right now, right? They are the authorities in Haiti. If they demand money from people over there, everybody out here in America will be like, oh, that's so detestable and corrupt. And of course, people have the right to take up arms against the gangs in Haiti. But yet, somehow, the same dumbass who believe that, they'll talk shit about somebody who doesn't want to give their money to the gang that rules over America called the government, right? The U.S. government. Like, think about how logical, how illogical, I should say. Think about the illogical fallacy that is. It literally makes no sense at all, right? But what it comes back to is just because it's America, that's why. Like, again, if people were going against the Chinese government, these Americans, they would join hand in hand with that, talk shit about them. But as soon as it's about their own country, then all of a sudden, it's like somebody puts his damn zipper over their mouth. You won't hear shit out of their mouth about anything about their country. About the hypocrisy and about the self-contradictory of the United States. Like, nobody will talk about that, right? Like, everybody goes silent when that topic comes up, right? We could talk shit about Israel, talk shit about Ukraine, talk shit about Russia, talk shit about Japan and China, all the other nations in there. But when America comes up, like, everybody goes silent. Nobody, like America can't be touched, right? Like, America is like some type of like holy little angel that does nothing wrong and should be totally respected at all costs. Like, that's how dumbasses actually think out here, right? Got dummies out here. Like this is one dumbass man, right? Jill, that dumbass Jill, he's on there like, well, America's a free country, right? America's a free country. Then you ask him, well, dummy, like, do you know like two reasons why that's the case? It's like, well, I can talk about whatever I want, or I can put whatever I want on YouTube here. It's like, well, dumbass, you do know that you can go to like what 80% of the countries around the world and literally say whatever you want and upload whatever you want on the internet there. So how again does your point make any sense? Like seriously, like these dummies out here, apparently they think like you can sit here and say anything you want in America, but then once you leave the borders of America, now if you talk about anything you want, now you'll get arrested or charged with something in another country. It's like, dummy, that's not true. Again, you can sit there and believe that, but that's not actually how the world works, right? That's your delusional mind that believes nonsense like that. And then I also want to point out, because this is supposedly a free country. Well, how the hell is it then that if this is truly a free country, why can you not leave the country without getting the government's permission, right? They need to give you like a passport in order to, leave the country to go somewhere else, right? It's like, well, wait, if this is a free country, well, why the hell would I have to get their permission to leave? It's like, shouldn't I be able to do that myself? Because I'm free, according to them, right? Free. Hope you can see the sarcasm in my voice here, right? It's like, wait, if I am free, well, why the hell can I not leave on my own? Like, why do I need to get your permission to leave exactly? Like, can somebody logically make sense of that? And again, nobody has any clue out here. All they know is, well, America's a free country. Then you ask them, well, why is America a free country? And then, it's like all you hear is crickets because nobody has any idea. It's just something they all repeat because they're gullible morons. That's just what it is out here. It's like, well, how is America any more free than Switzerland or South Korea? I know North Korea is more restricted than America. I'll admit that. But South Korea, like shit, I just watched this dude. What's this guy? Speed, right? I am Speed, right? The popular guy on YouTube. Dude was literally over in Korea for a couple of days. Dude, literally out there acting like a dumbass on the street. Doing the same shit he does in America, and nothing happened to the dude, right? So again, like what exactly is different between the United States and the other countries in the world? Like, how is America any more free than those countries? And you can't just say, well, you can own firearms. Well, you can own firearms in a lot of countries around the world, right? It's strict in America. you have to undergo certain procedures and abide by certain regulations in order to get a firearm. So it's not like anybody can just go walk up and buy one with their own money. No, the government has to give you the permission to have it. So again, it's like that in other countries as well. So to sit there and pretend like, oh, you can hold a firearm in America, so it makes you free. It's like, well, dumbass. It's like you do realize that you have to get the government's permission in order to have that, right? So that could tell you no then if they want to, right? Or they can tell you yeah. But the point is, it's their decree if you can or cannot. It's not up to you. Like you could go out, have $1 million in the bank, but if the government says we're not giving it to you, then you're not getting it. So how again are you free? Uh, it's like dummy. If there's a group of people that's controlling over you, you're not free. It's like this shouldn't be hard to understand, right? So it just is really funny to me, right? Because people be out there like America is such a free country, but yeah, it's like you guys do realize there's a group of people who has control and they dictate over us and dictate to us what we can and cannot do. And anybody who is caught breaking even the very least of their commandments will be charged a lot of money. They'll be jailed for years of their life. They'll get put in all these, list that the government has of so-called dangerous people, and then they'll in some instances they even get killed, right? So those are like four outcomes that happens to people who break any of the government's arbitrary laws and commandments. Like even as weird as this sounds, it's like Christians out here, like a lot of them, right? They'll throw God's commandment out the window, right? Like we no longer have to keep God's commandments because Jesus did away with it. But then they'll bend over backwards, like a gay person, and literally accept whatever the government wants to shove up their behind, right? That like literally this is how people out here think, especially Christians, right? They'll be like, um, well, Jesus did away with the law. There is no law we have to keep anymore. But obey the government, though, right? Obey man's law. Like even this dumbass Peregrine is like, well, don't obey God's law, right? God's law is null and void today, right? And that has no importance at all. But keep government's law, though, right? Obey whatever the government tells you, but don't keep God's law. And again, that's what Christianity teaches. But well, of course, not all churches, but a lot of them teach that the law's done away with, but do keep the law of the land, right? So they literally put government above God, right? They put government's decrees above what God says. And again, that's a damn shame. It's like, wow, really these churches out here, the God they worship is the government, right? That's who they worship, right? Government in this country is worshipped higher than God, right? People honor and respect government's every law, statute, and commandment, and they totally disrespect and disregard God's laws and commandments, right? They put what government says above what God says. That's what people out here do, unfortunately. But here's the funny thing though, right? How can this be a free country if there's literally a group of people who have the supposed moral right to lay down commandments and everybody must obey their commandments at all costs, and anybody who's caught at any time breaking any of their commandments will be severely punished. It's like dummies out there if you can't realize that's a authoritarian dictatorship. And that's what America is. America is a dictatorship. There's a group of people that are high up in the pedestal of power who they can lay down demands and commands. And anybody who is found breaking any of these commandments will be fined a lot of money, will be jailed sometimes for life, or killed, or put onto lists where the government keeps track of them. So again, it's like, how is this a free country if literally they can control your life in any way they want? And anybody who dares to disrespect their rules and commandments will be severely punished. It's like, that's a totalitarian dictatorship. And that's absolutely what America is. And again, there's no rational or logical person who can explain this and rationally make sense to me of how I am wrong here. You can't. You just, again, anybody that bends over backwards and just accepts whatever government says, I mean, you are a despicable and disgusting human being. If you just believe in what America says because, well, it's America. but then talk shit about other countries. I mean, again, you are a dishonest human being, if that's honestly what you believe. Because again, what I'm saying clearly is evident in itself, right? That this country cannot be a free country if literally it has rulers over it, politicians who can make any demand up they want. Because again, the way laws are made, right, for those that are not educated on it, the way laws are made in this country is, the politicians or the congressmen, they can bicker back and forth with one another about, a new idea, a new law proposal, like TikTok, right? Like the whole TikTok ban, right? One of them came up one day, you know what? Maybe we should ban TikTok for national security concerns, right? So then they'll bicker back and forth with like, what is it, 300 of them? And if they can all come to somewhat of an agreement, they can write a bill and then ship it off to the government. Being the top president, right, the king over the country, and if he signs his decree on it, then that becomes law, and then now all everybody has to obey that commandment, right? Now, of course, sometimes like certain parts of the country have like local codes that they go by, where a couple states over they don't go by those same codes. But there's also something called a federal law, meaning what? That's a decree that all of the 50 states have to abide by, right? There's certain federal laws out there that all 50 states have to abide by, right? But again, whether it's a local decree or a federal law, it's all still a totalitarian. It's all totalitarian. Because again, if they can make up any decree they want to control hundreds of millions of people, and anybody call getting out of line and not following any of those commands, they get severely punished. So that's authoritarian government right there, and that's absolutely America. Now somebody might say, "Well, it's not as severe as another country like North Korea." It's like, well, dummy, it still doesn't mean that it's not the authoritarian government. That's like saying, well, my slave master, well, he does beat me, but not as much as other slaves. So that, means that he's not a slave master. It's like, are you really that stupid that you can't figure that out? It's like, clearly America's a authoritarian dictatorship. Of course, it's not as severe as some others in the world, sure. But that doesn't now change the fact that it's not a dictatorship. Like, I mean, again, I just don't get like how this is so hard to understand. I just don't get it. Again, I'll give you an example, right? You know, they'll sit there and say that you can't purchase certain things with your own money, right? Like, say, for instance, you could work when you're, 20 years old, and you can't go out and buy a pack of alcohol with your own money. It's like, well, wait, if it's a free country, I should be able to, go ahead and buy whatever I want with my hard-earned money. The fact that you can put up regulations and tell me what I am allowed and what I am not allowed to buy, that shows that you're a dictator. Or I'll give you another one. Like, say if somebody's 16 and wants to go buy a pack of cigarettes, there's no moral reason why they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And if you tell them they can't, well, that's a dictatorship right there, because you're telling that person that they can do what they want with their own hard-earned money because, well, you say so. It's like, okay, but that's totalitarian, right? Or another one, I mentioned this earlier, but like, let's say if I want to go to Cuba or something, right? Or if I want to go visit Australia, right? I have to get a passport, right? I have to get the permission of the government in order to leave the country and to go over to that other territory, right? It's like, well, wait, if I'm a free citizen, well, why the hell would I have to get your permission in order to choose myself to go visit another country for a couple weeks? Like seriously, why do I have to get your permission to do it? It just honestly doesn't make any sense, right? Like again, if it's truly a free country, I shouldn't have to get your written command that you allow me to go and do this and that. It's like that proves that you are a dictator. It's like, again, I don't know how people are just so ignorant and stupid and they can't figure this out. Like dummies out here. What the July 4th's coming up pretty soon. These same dummies out here, they're going to be flying their flags and eating hot dogs and getting drunk on 4th of July, the ironic part is they don't even realize that they're literally celebrating the victory of people who literally fought against their own government, right? Like the colonies of America fought against Great Britain and King George, to win independence from Britain, right? A lot of these, nigglets out here are just ignorant of the history of their own country, right? But here it is, these dummies out here are going to be celebrating their freedom on July 4th. But yet, these dummies don't even realize they're literally celebrating the traitors. They're literally celebrating traitors, being the 13 colonies who rebelled against their government. So, literally, if you celebrate July 4th, you are literally celebrating traitors to their government. I mean, again, anybody that actually knows the history, you can't disagree with that, right? The 13 colonies were set up by Britain, and then over some time, they rebelled against Britain and won their independence from Britain. But still, that's a group of people who fought against their government. So when you celebrate July 4th, you are celebrating the victory of people who fought against their own government. That's really what you're doing. Again, whether you're honest enough to admit that, that's just what the history is, right? So July 4th, that's hypocrisy in itself, because these dummies out here will be like, "Whoa, obey the government, right? Obey everything the government says." But yeah, literally turn right around and literally celebrate traitors of government. Literally celebrate the people who fought against the government. Like think of how retarded that is, right? So you'll today say everybody should just stay in order and obey whatever government commands, but then their dumbass on July 4th will be stuffing their mouth full of hot dogs and beer and shooting off fireworks and shit, literally celebrating tyrants that fought against their own government. And if you confront them on this, they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I just believe what I'm told." Again, I mean, it is just so asinine and retarded to me. But this is just the level of stupidity that the average person has. In the day and time that we're living in. But again, for the record, right? Because all my points have already been proven to back up what I'm saying here, right? America, why it's true, it might not be as extreme as some other authoritarian governments in the world. To pretend that America is not a authoritarian country, that's just called being delusional and stupid. Let's do a recap. If there's a country that has dictators who can control everybody's life and lifestyle by their commandments, that is authoritarian government. Does America fit that standard? Yes, America absolutely falls under that category. It has a group of people who can make up decrees, and everybody will be forced by violence to obey every decree, no matter how unjust, no matter how unfair. Everybody will be forced by violence to obey what they are commanded. So again, but what logical person could tell me America is not a authoritarian country? Anybody who says that it's not, that person is just retarded and stupid, right? That person is retarded and doesn't know what words mean. Again, it's so simple and clear to see what's going on. It really pisses you off that when, people out here are so gullible and ignorant, but yet they'll turn around and criticize what you're saying, right? There'll be some dumbass out there that will sit there and criticize me for criticizing America, but yet none of the points that I made here they can address. Like, they can't address any of the hard-hitting facts they just presented in this video. All they can be, sit there and be is like, "Well, you're wrong." "Well, why am I wrong?" Next question. you know that's just how stupid some people are out here, man. It's really a damn shame if you think about it. That we're in a day and age where people out here just believe whatever they're told, right? Like, people out here are so gullible and willfully ignorant, and they'll just believe whatever they're told, right? Because government don't lie to me. Government doesn't lie to me. It's like, come on, it's just amazing to me that this is the stupidity of the average person in the modern time, right? A lot of people out here, think they're smart and educated because they went to governmental, learning centers. It's like, dummies, you guys do realize there's something called indoctrination, right? Where authority can install ideas and concepts into your mind to force a narrative upon you, right? You know what I find funny though is like I see on YouTube, right? Some of these like American truthers, so-called truthers, they'll be talking about like Russia, right? And how the Russian media, they deceive their public by putting propaganda out there, like say for instance, like the war in Ukraine, right? They'll put like false information out there to control the narrative. But then they'll turn around and pretend like America is not doing the same thing, right? Like you won't hear a peep out of their mouth about like false narratives or agendas or false narratives or whatever coming from the U.S. government and American news sources. You won't hear a peep out of their mouth about that though. It's all all these other countries do this, but America's like unquestionable. It's like wow, it just goes to show the ignorance and the stupidity of the average person. The ignorance and the stupidity is just really astonishing to me. It's really astonishing and laughable how hypocritical the average simp walking around now here is, right? America's a free country. It's like, okay, well, how is America a free country? Oh, and you know what I find funny, right? Is people will be like, well, you can't follow God's laws and commandments, even though there's only 613. But yet it'll literally turn around and say, obey whatever government says. It's like, well, dummy, you do know there's over 40,000 different laws that exist in America, right? Look it up. Look this up on YouTube or on Wikipedia or on Google. You can fact check this statement. There are like 40,000 written laws that exist. So you tell me seriously, you actually obey all of those? But on the other hand, you'll be like, oh, I can't obey what God said, though. Right? I can't obey what God said, even though it's like literally what, 1% the amount of laws that America has? But you obey all America's laws, but when God's laws is like what, literally 1 to 100, you can't follow God's laws, though, right? You can't follow any of those, but you will bend over backwards like a gay man and just accept whatever the government wants to, force down your throat. It's really a shame. It's truly a embarrassment. American men are an embarrassment, man. There's really no real men in this country. We got faggots out here running around. Got what is what are these people? Cross dressers. Transformers. Got to use code language. Right, that's what you got in this country. Literally, even the men in America's army, they're in there with a bunch of transformers and women. Right? Hell, there's a reason why armies around the world don't have women in their military. Because women all throughout human history, they wouldn't join armies. Why? Because well, it's a known fact that men are stronger than women, right? So you wouldn't want to have that in your army force. But of course, the United States is different. Again, not only they got women in the military, right? Even these recruitment ads that I've seen, right? Like there was even one recently still on the internet, going around like getting recommended on videos as advertisement, where this girl was like she had two mothers, and she was raised and got the inspiration to join the military. It's like, wait, why they had to mention the fact she had two mothers? Could it be because you guys are putting an agenda out there? I think that's why, right? Because you're trying to, well, for one, you're trying to get all these, people, the Transformers and women, all that, gays to join the army and all that, of course. But they're just putting this into the back of people's minds, right? About you got to accept this type of lifestyle without question, right? Like if you go to other countries in the world, man, that lifestyle won't be accepted. Like Russia doesn't accept that. China doesn't accept that, among other countries, right? Saudi Arabia, they don't accept that type of lifestyle. If they find you living like that, man, that's your ass right there. But over here in America, that's all accepted. If you want to get in a polygamous relationship, you can't do that because that's illegal. But if you want to be gay, you can openly go and do that, though. Right? You can openly go be gay, but you can't have two or three wives. Oh, and then there's other dummies out here actually will sit there and say America is like a nation under God. Well, it is a nation under God, a nation under Satan. Right? What is that? 2 Corinthians 4, verse 4. Right? The God of this world has blinded their minds. Right, yeah, America is under God. It's under Satan. That's who the God that they're under, the God of this world. Right, 2 Corinthians 4, 4. That's the God they're under. Right, that's the God America serves, is the devil. That's what America serves. So I don't want to make this video too drawn out. I just wanted to go on a little bit of a rant about the subject. Um, but anyway, I'm going to call that the video there.